I never meant to fall in love with the most dangerous man in the galaxy. My name is Lyra Vale, and until the age of 26 I was nobody special, a junior xenobotanist on the research moon EOS-9, cataloging alien moss and dreaming of tenure. My days smelled of hydroponic fertilizer and recycled air. My nights were spent staring through the observatory dome at the swirling violet storms of the gas giant we orbited. Romance was the last thing on my mind. Then the hegemony came. It began with a tremor that rattled every beaker in the lab. Alarms howled. The director's voice cracked over the intercom, all personnel to emergency pods. This is not a drill. Through the viewport I saw them, black arrowhead warships sliding out of hyperspace like knives through silk. The hegemony of the Seven Suns, the empire that had swallowed half the Milky Way and still hungered for more. They weren't here for conquest. They were here for the moon itself. EOS-9 sat on a fault line between hegemony space and the loose alliance called the Free Systems Concord. Our little moon was neutral, harmless, forgotten. Except someone had discovered that the moss I spent my life studying wasn't moss at all. It was a living superconductor that could triple the range of jump drives. Overnight, EOS-9 became the most valuable piece of rock in the spiral arm. The hegemony sent one ship to claim it peacefully. When we refused, they sent a fleet. I was running for the evacuation shuttles when the corridor exploded around me. Ceiling panels rained down. I remember the taste of blood and smoke, the screams cut short by vacuum. Then a gauntleted hand closed around my wrist and yanked me into a side passage. "Stay low, little botanist," a voice said, low and amused, as if the end of the world were a private joke. I looked up, and the universe tilted. He was tall even for a hegemony officer, broad-shouldered inside matte black power armor etched with silver constellations. His helmet was tucked under one arm, revealing a face that should have belonged on recruitment posters, high cheekbones, storm gray eyes, a scar that started at his left temple and disappeared into coal-black hair. The insignia on his chest marked him as a galactic general, one of only 12 in the entire hegemony, a man who could burn star systems with a signature. His name was Kyle Draven, and he was supposed to be my enemy. He dragged me through collapsing corridors while his soldiers secured the moon. I expected interrogation, a holding cell, worse. Instead, he deposited me inside the flagship's observation lounge, sealed the door, and left me with a cup of real coffee, not the synthetic sludge we drank on EOS-9. Through the transparisteel wall, I watched my home shatter. Orbital bombardments carved glowing scars across the surface. Shuttles full of my colleagues tried to flee and were vaporized. I stood there for hours, numb, until Kyle returned. "You're safe," he said simply. "Why?" My voice cracked like thin ice. He studied me the way a man studies a star chart before plotting a course through a minefield. "Because the moss you cataloged responded to your biosignature. It bloomed only when you were near. The hegemony needs you alive and cooperative." So that was it. I was a hostage with a green thumb. They kept me in luxury, a prisoner in silk chains. My quarters aboard the dreadnought Obsidian Regent were larger than my entire lab back home. I had access to every database in the Empire, fresh fruit, a viewport facing the stars. All I had to do was make the moss grow. For weeks I refused. I smashed equipment. I starved myself. I screamed until my throat bled. Kyle never raised his voice. He simply waited, appearing each evening with dinner neither of us ate, asking quiet questions about light spectra and soil pH. He listened as if my petty rebellions were the most fascinating thing in the galaxy. One night I hurled a tablet at his head. He caught it without looking. "Tell me why you do this," I spat. "You murder entire worlds for resources, yet you tiptoe around one stubborn scientist." He set the tablet down gently. "Because some things are more dangerous when broken." Something in his voice made me pause. For the first time I saw the exhaustion behind the perfect mask, faint bruises under his eyes, the microscopic tremor in his gauntleted hand. A galactic general did not rise to that rank by being gentle. Whatever kept him awake was bigger than me. That was the night I started talking back. Days turned into months. The Regent prowled the border, chasing Concord raiders, annexing fringe colonies. I learned to navigate the ship's endless corridors, nodding to crew who bowed when Kyle passed. I learned he hated the taste of replicated meat, that he read pre-collapse poetry in the original Old English, that he had not taken leave in 9 years. I learned he was 29 standard years old. 1 year older than me. I learned the scar on his face came from a Concord boarding axe when he was 19, defending a colony the Hegemony later glassed anyway. I learned that every time he looked at me, something in his eyes fractured. The moss bloomed the first time when he was in the lab with me. I was calibrating UV lamps and cursing under my breath. He stood silently at the door, arms folded, watching. A filament of living crystal unfurled toward him like a cat stretching in sunlight. "Traitor," I muttered to the moss. Kyle's mouth curved, not quite a smile. "It likes me. It has terrible taste." But I was smiling too, and that scared me more than any bombardment. The war escalated. The Concorde declared total embargo. 3 Hegemony fleets vanished near the Veil Nebula. Rumors spread of a superweapon powered by the very substance I was growing. Every sample I cultivated went straight to the weapons labs. I woke sweating from nightmares of violet fire consuming entire systems. One night I cornered Kyle in the hydroponics bay. "You're building a doomsday device with my work," I said. "When it's finished, you won't need me anymore. What happens then?" He was pruning dead leaves with a combat knife, movements precise and gentle. "Then I will have failed." "Failed at what?" "At keeping you safe." The knife slipped. A bead of crimson welled on his thumb. Without thinking, I caught his hand, pressed my lips to the wound. He went very still. "Lyra," he said, voice rough, "you should hate me." "I do," I whispered against his skin. "Keep going." He kissed me among the glowing moss, armor cold against my palms, mouth hot and desperate, as if I were the only fixed point in a collapsing universe. When we pulled apart, his forehead rested against mine. "I will burn every star in this galaxy before I let them hurt you," he said. I believed him. And that was the beginning of the end. The Concorde launched Operation Monarch, a daring strike to kidnap me and destroy the moss cultures. They breached the Regent in the middle of the night. Alarms shrieked. I stumbled into the corridor in bare feet and a stolen officer's coat and ran straight into Concorde Marines. Their leader, a woman with captain's bars and fury in her eyes, raised her rifle. "Dr. Vale, you're coming with us." Then Kyle was simply there, a black hole given human shape. His sidearm spoke 3 times. The Marines dropped. The captain's body hit the deck with a wet sound I will never unhear. He stood over her corpse, breathing hard, gun still aimed at nothing. "Kyle," I said. He turned. For one heartbeat, the monster the galaxy feared looked out of his eyes. Then he saw me and the monster knelt. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry you saw that." Behind us, the self-destruct sequence armed. The Concorde had rigged the moss vaults to blow. In 90 seconds, the Regent would become a new star. Kyle scooped me up and ran. We made it to an escape frigate as the dreadnought blossomed into violet-white fire behind us. Half the crew died. The Moss Weapon Project died with them. The Hegemony's Supreme War Master broadcast an empire-wide warrant for General Kyle Draven's arrest on charges of treason, dereliction, and aiding an enemy asset. He had chosen me over victory. We ran for months. He taught me to pilot, to shoot, to forge transit papers. We slept in the holds of grain freighters, in abandoned mining tunnels, once inside the hollowed-out corpse of a dead god whale drifting through the Hades cluster. Every bounty hunter in the spiral arm wanted the price on our heads. He never touched me again. Not because he didn't want to, I saw it every time he looked at me, but because he believed he no longer deserved to. I was done letting him decide what he deserved. We were hiding in the rust-red canyons of Calypso -4 when I finally cornered him on a cliff at sunset. 2 suns bled across the sky like open wounds. "Marry me," I said. He laughed, a broken sound. "Lyra, I'm the most wanted man alive. I can't give you anything. You already gave me everything, I told him. You gave me a reason galaxies burn. Now give me a reason they don't have to. He kissed me like a drowning man kisses air. We found a priest in a refugee camp who didn't ask questions. The rings were braided from conductor moss I grew in a cracked coffee mug. When we slipped them on, the moss pulsed soft gold, alive and warm. For 6 months we were almost happy. Then the Hegemony found us. They sent the 11th Fleet, 30 capital ships, and Kyle's former protege, Admiral Saris Vaughn, a man who had once called Kyle father. They cornered us above the storm world of Vera, lightning cracking between continents of cloud. Kyle kissed me once, hard, tasting of goodbye. Whatever happens, he said, live. He took our little frigate straight into the teeth of the fleet alone. I watched from the escape pod as he danced the ship through turbolaser fire, drawing every gun to himself. He broadcast on open channel, voice calm. This is General Kyle Draven. The woman you seek is dead. I killed her to keep the weapon from both empires. Let the war end here. Saris didn't believe him. They tractored our frigate into the flagship's bay. I screamed until my throat tore. They executed Kyle on the bridge in front of the entire fleet, broadcast live so no one could claim it was faked. Saris made me watch. When the plasma bolt took Kyle in the chest, he did not fall at first. He looked straight into the camera, straight at me, and smiled the way he had the night the moss first bloomed. I kept my promise, he said. Then he was gone. The war ended 3 weeks later. Without the moss superweapon, neither side could sustain offensive campaigns. Truce lines were drawn. Historians still argue whether Kyle's death saved billions or merely postponed the next catastrophe. I live now on a quiet agri-world no one bothers to conquer. I grow tomatoes and children, 2 boys with their father's storm-gray eyes. At night, I sit on the porch and watch the stars wheel overhead. Sometimes the moss I still keep in a pot on the windowsill glows faintly, as if remembering. People ask if I hate him for lying, for dying, for leaving me to raise our sons alone in a universe that still bears his scars. I tell them the truth. He was the most dangerous man in the galaxy, and he risked an interstellar war just to keep me safe. He succeeded. Every dawn when the suns rise over fields he will never see, I touch the living ring on my finger and whisper the same words into the morning light. Thank you, my love. Rest now. I lived.